Hey guys, I'd like to talk about the recent deregulation of the Obama era regulations on climate change. Well, there's a lot of people freaking out about it right now, but that's really unnecessary in my mind because, a lot of these regulations, what they're actually doing is just sending jobs overseas, and they're not actually staying in America. So whenever you create more regulations on a business and you make it harder for them to thrive in your country, what they often do is they go to another country like China, Africa, and you name it. These types of countries that have just way less regulation, almost none. So this is what's happening with globalization. These types of policies that, on the outside appear good, but oftentimes have very negative, bad consequences. So a lot of these regulations that are in place now weren't really doing much to save the environment any more than it already needs and saving, right? There was, we first of all, we already reached the point of no return according to most climate scientists. So that we're kind of like screwed in that sense, right? There's not much we can really do to stop it anymore. All we can really do is just, clean up and try to prevent as much as we can and hope for the best, really. But and also secondly, like if you look at North America, America, Canada, these kinds of countries, Europe, we produce very little amount of the pollution worldwide. So to enact these like draconian laws upon us to prevent a little bit more CO2 that's going to be negligible on a whole and that's going to destroy our economies doesn't make any sense to me. And if they actually cared about the economy, or I mean about the environment, they wouldn't be sending our jobs overseas to other countries, or they wouldn't be creating policies that essentially force companies to send their jobs overseas to countries that have way less regulations on pollutions. So they're just creating more suffering with what they're doing. Like a perfect example is Canada too. Like we're very adamantly against the oil sands in Alberta, but what we'll do instead is we'll spend $12 billion a year to import oil from Saudi Arabia that has pretty much slaves and that is way less efficient with their creation of oil. So this is what we're doing instead. And you'll tell people this and they'll still be like, oh well, we shouldn't be producing it in Canada anyways because it's dirty. It's like, but people are dying like they're slaves in that country, and shipping that oil across the ocean and with tankers into other countries, or I mean into other provinces, is not going to be more efficient, and you're increasing the chances of spills. And having like a pipeline and these types of things would actually be more efficient and would create less chance for pollution. So there's a lot of hot air and a lot of nonsense going about and hysteria about these restrictions or these deregulations of the Obama era regulations, but it's a good thing. This will help bring jobs back, and there's some regulations are okay, but there's a point where it can get out of hand, and then things are just crazy. Like we could actually be preventing a lot of this CO2, if people were just allowed to grow more things on their property, and there wasn't such, restrictions and regulations to prevent people from, you know, making smaller homes and doing, just more efficient things. But oftentimes there are regulations preventing us. Like we could be growing gardens and all these things in our front yards, backyards, but oftentimes, everybody is supposed to have like grass, straight grass, cut a certain length, and if you divert from this too much, you'll get fined. So they're preventing us from actually, you know, helping the environment a lot of the times. So don't listen to this hysteria. You know, a lot of this stuff is still in place. Your environment is fine in America, and you know, if the climate scientists are right, we've already reached a point of no return. And you know, if you really want to punish somebody, punish people like China and India and even Mexico, because they're the ones, you know, producing more than like 80% of the freaking CO2 on the planet. So talk to them instead of bitching at Trump, whatever.